On today's edition of Politics on Sunday, our focus will be on the presidency. And that's expected because so much happened within the week inside the presidential villa, from announcements given by President Bola Tinubu and some approvals are made. To put all of these into perspective for us is the special advisor to President Bola Tinubu on media and publicity, Chief Ajuri Ngelale. Welcome to the program, sir.
It's always a privilege to be with you.
Well, let's start with how the week started in the presidential villa. You know, that statement you signed announcing the president's decision to suspend the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation to allow investigation into some affairs of the ministry go on, and directed the EFCC to handle that. You know, this, some people say, increased the president's approval ratings, but it also brought some level of criticism for the Bola Tinubu administration. But how is all of this shaping the presidency?
His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a man who is going to be moved by only the facts. He is not going to be moved by speculation. He's not going to be moved by sentiment. And obviously, when black and white facts and figures are presented before him as to what may be happening within any federal ministry, department, or agency, he is going to take concrete decision based on what he knows is best for the people of Nigeria. And I believe that in the case of the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, His Excellency Mr. President has done just that. His Excellency Mr. President has been very clear with all members of his administration within the Federal Executive Council in private meetings that he will not tolerate any form of indiscipline, corruption, dereliction of duty, or any other form of incompetence. This is not a man who is going to let time go by if he fully understands that somebody is not up to the task. He will fix the problem, and he will fix it as quickly as possible. And we've seen that, and that is what Nigerians are praising today. But I also think that it's important to note that the president has given full instruction to the EFCC chairman to not only conduct a thorough investigation, but the way the president would direct such an investigation is to say that nobody, no name should be left out if they are found wanting in this situation. No sacred cows at all. Anywhere this investigation takes the EFCC and other investigating authorities, that is where the investigation must go, and the president will take action accordingly.
But it's also good to know and comforting for a lot of people who, especially anti-corruption crusaders, that, you know, there's a president that supports the anti-graft agency and gives them that backing, because we have also seen, should I say, the unfettered access the chairman of the EFCC has to Mr. President to give him briefs on all of these investigations ongoing by the commission.
That's right. In the State House, all relevant officials, whether it be the NFIU head, whether it be the chairman of the EFCC, the ICPC, you know, the governor of the central bank, and many, many others who are involved in some form in some of these processes, all of them have had direct and unfettered access to His Excellency Mr. President. And that's really part of the open door policy of his administration, to say, look, he is not going to rely solely on the reports of a minister or of a secretary or of an official close to his office. He's always going to get first-hand information from those officers who are conducting these investigations on a direct basis. And as a result of that, he's always going to have the confidence that he has the fullness of information before him, rather than you know, allowing for the potential of any selective information, which has now been known as being a bane of prior administrations.
Okay, you know, this matter also threw up something some people would call rumor, but I would like you to confirm it now. There's this report that we saw about an imminent cabinet reshuffle. Some people are saying in the coming days, President Bola Tinubu will reassign portfolios and kind of reshuffle his cabinet. What's the true state of things? Should we expect a cabinet reshuffle?
It is only natural in the media to drive such stories, particularly if there's even a whisper that such a thing could occur. But I think it's important that we not preempt the activities of the president. The president is fully aware of all factors related to what people are doing and not doing within his administration. He does have a special advisor on policy and coordination in the person of Hadissa Bala Usman, who is also monitoring the activities of the MDAs with respect to performance-related issues. And he has all of that information, at any point in time. But let me say this. When it comes to the news, I also read it about cabinet reshuffle, which also led to owners of various TV, radio, and newspaper entities calling me to try and get more information on it. At this point, it is in the realm of speculation. What is not in the realm of speculation, however, is that the president has ordered a thorough investigation. And wherever that investigation takes him, he will act accordingly. And I do think that the president would probably, I would assume, not make such a move until he has a clear idea of exactly what that investigation has unearthed and whether or not there are other officials of government that he feels would need to be roped into such an exercise on the basis of whatever the findings of that investigation is. And again, I don't think everything is related to just a single corruption investigation that is now occurring. I think the president may or may not have made his assessments on the performance of other officers that have nothing to do with corruption. So at such a point that the president comes to those conclusions, he is at full liberty to conduct any reshuffle exercise as he wishes. However, the president has not communicated to any officer, including myself, that he has any intention of doing so, at least in the near term.
Yeah, and then, these investigation ordered by the president has also developed so many branches. One of them is the suspension of all NSIPA programs. But, of particular mention among these programs is the school feeding program. We have noticed that the president appears to be so fond of the school feeding program. Anytime he talks about the number of out-of-school children and all of that, is this not a setback to the president's desire to get so many children in school, especially using these NSIPA school feeding program to drive to raise enrollments?
It's very much a worthy question, Femi. Let me just be very clear about something. Yes, His Excellency, Mr. President, did approve the suspension of 4 programs under the Social Investment Program Agency in SIPA, following the suspension of the head of that agency and, of course, the supervising minister as well. But the 4 programs in question, as you rightly mentioned, do go beyond the homegrown school feeding program. You also have NPower affected. You also have the conditional cash transfer affected. You also have the Jeep Enterprise and Empowerment Scheme, that is known as Trader Money, Market Money, also affected, in addition to the home school feeding program. Now, with those 4 programs being suspended, it's important to note that those suspensions are taking place for a period of approximately 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So now that you have that 6-week suspension in place, it is not in any way to convey any type of convey any type of displacement of priority on those programs. They're still very much at the center and at the heart of what Mr. President wants to do for the disadvantaged populations of our country, all across our country. But what he is saying is, let's have a 6-week suspension so that all payments, all activities within those programs are immediately stopped, and to ensure that the ministerial panel that he has now set up, chaired by the Honorable Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Betta Edu, is can fully engage that process of reforming those programs to ensure that only those disadvantaged populations that the president is seeking to help expeditiously and comprehensively are those beneficiaries that will be benefiting from this program, not middlemen, not bureaucrats, not appointed officials, and certainly not some of the other actors that we've seen involved within some of these very, very troubling payments that were made to various entities without due process. So this is really what the president is focused on at this time. Now, with respect to the homegrown school feeding program. He's been very open. In fact, just the other day, he hosted the Progressive Governors Forum, at which he elaborated extensively on the importance of the homegrown school feeding program and other social investment programs. But the message was, and I found this very interesting being in the room, as he was addressing the Progressive Governors Forum, his charge to them was not to say, do everything you can to make the APC look good, do everything you can to advance the interests of our party. That's not what he was saying. What he was saying is, yes, you're elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress, but now is the time for governance. What we need is to ensure that all of the agenda items, all of the policies and programs of this administration are effectively carried on, not just within the progressive states, the APC-led states, but in the opposition-led states of the NNPP now in Kano, of PDP and of Labour Party in Abia. We need to ensure that all parties, all states led by the various parties are all engaged and benefiting equitably from the president's programs, whether it is the homegrown school feeding program or many others, because ultimately the Nigerian child is present in every state of this country, whether it's progressive or not in terms of its political orientation. And we are saying that the priority now during this period of governance under the leadership of Mr. President, his emphasis is on making sure that every child benefits irrespective of what state they are living in. And that is the focus of this administration across the board, including the homegrown school feeding program once it is re-engaged at the end of this 6-week suspension process.
And the president approved the 60% slash in the expenditure of federal government officials going on both foreign and the local or domestic trips. Some people say this is rather extreme. You know, we understand the need to cut the cost of governance, but is this realistic? 60%?
Well, I think we should be even more nuanced by saying that His Excellency Mr. President gave a directive that the state security, the security apparatus that is usually traveling with him, even within the country to various states, can go well over 100 officers. And obviously you're talking about flight tickets, you're talking about accommodation, you're talking about duty tour allowances and the like. The president is saying that is totally unnecessary if we have a full complement of security already resident within these Nigerian states, whether it is DSS, whether it's police, whether it's branches of the military, they're already on ground. Let us leverage on those that we're paying to stay within those states, who are already having accommodation within those states, and they can effectively coordinate with the security apparatus, with their headquarters at the center, to ensure that there is a seamless process in terms of detail and protection within those states with when Mr. President travels, obviously saving a massive amount of money in the process. Now, in addition to that, as you rightly mentioned, the president has cut down the travel entourage, but I think we should be clear that this is affecting predominantly the principal staff of the presiding officials mentioned, including the president himself. Yes, he has limited to international travel, obviously for obvious reasons, international travel being much more expensive with respect to flight tickets, accommodation, and duty tour allowances and the like. He has, in his wisdom, cut it down to 20 officers.
20,
obviously, the office of the vice president is 5. I believe the office of the first lady is also 5, and the like. The president is saying, look, and I haven't even mentioned the ministers and heads of agencies who have also been cut down to about 4 each, and all of that. The president is saying that, look, we are no longer going to be telling federal MDAs how it should be done with respect to cost of governance and cost cutting. We are going to take the example and lead by example and say, look, it's going to start in my wife's office, in my office. It's going to extend to my wife's office. It's going to extend to the vice president's office. People know that this president is serious. They know that he means what he says, and he's ready to do exactly what he's telling others to do. And I think the important point here to also mention is that the president is saying, look, anyone now, these are not empty directives. I think under past administrations over the last 2 decades in this country, Nigerians have grown accustomed to empty threats from the presidency, saying you'll do something, but when the time comes to actually affect that or implement that directive, you see friendship and loyalty and all these other factors come into it. The president has shown that ministers who have been with him for some time, who have campaigned with him, been in his house on a frequent basis, who he knows very well, he will still take action. If there's there's any doubt as to the seriousness of the president with respect to the implementation of his directives, that those directives can be tested by the officials of government that are now bound by those directives, I believe that any would be doing so at their own peril.
Wow. Well, also, let's now go into economic issues now. There is, the president has been on this huge and massive investment drive. We have seen ministers coming back to brief, and the latest was the Minister of Steel Development talking about a prospect of about $10 billion investment in Nigeria's steel sector. And that will be the steel production line of the Ajaokuta steel mill, where it will now produce iron rods and others that would help both in the construction industry and both road construction, of course, and indeed real estate. What kind of multiplier effect do we expect, and really how soon will all of these be felt? The impact, how soon will it be felt?
There's nobody in the country, in my opinion, that understands the central importance of the steel sector to industrialization, especially joined with electric power generation and distribution. To the industrialization of the country than His Excellency Mr. President. He understands that if there are any two sectors that must be totally transformed for the sake of active industrialization in the country, it is electric power and steel, which is why Mr. President was very pleased when he received brief from the Honorable Minister of Steel, Prince Audu, and the Honorable Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, when they briefed him that we now have $10 billion of new investment prospect lined up and ready to go in the steel development sector. Now, I need to emphasize that what was shown to Mr. President was that this is not merely an economic development exercise, but there are other ramifications across other sectors such as defense. Right now, we have discussions ongoing with a major Chinese firm to not just revamp the Ajaokuta Steel Company and really take it into active production at full scale, but also co-locating new facilities within that complex to deal specifically for the use of steel that will be coming out of that out of the Ajaokuta facility that will now be the input of a new weapons production facility. We're using those steels and metals that will be coming from Ajaokuta. So that's going to be a major point of not just job creation, enhanced tax revenue, but also another point of indigenous weapon production, which we did not have before. That can obviously cut across the Air Force, the Army, and the Navy, as well as some of our intelligence agencies. So that's going to be on that side of it. On the other side of it, we also have existing steel investment opportunities that the president is expediting into implementation, which is a $5 billion commitment that was received on the sidelines of G20, which we had discussed previously from the Jindal Steel Group. That is there, which has to do with not only partaking in the running of existing steel plants, but actually producing new steel production facilities in other parts of the country. Then we also have another multi-billion dollar investment prospect from Luan Steel Company in China that is going to be investing massively in a very large-scale steel production entity within our country as well. So this is going to be key. You're never going to have enough companies producing steel in any country. If you look at China, you know that they are still looking at ramping up. Despite being the world's largest steel producer, they are actively courting new investments in steel production. You can really never have enough. And that is particularly true in our instance because we know that our neighboring countries, across the continent and within our sub-region, they're hungry for steel. They're paying billions of dollars to import steel just like we have been over the last several decades. If we can be the steel producer that not only satisfies Nigeria's local demand for steel with respect to manufacturing, construction, defense, and many other sectors, housing and the like, you will also know that our neighbors that we can be supplying this steel to, we can be making that foreign exchange from our neighbors if we can expeditiously put in place those steel production facilities, and that is what His Excellency Mr. President has been driving very hard.
Okay, lastly, Laura, before we go, because of time, on Friday, the Supreme Court, that's the Apex Court, gave out judgments of election petition in several states across the country. But that's not the issue now. It's what we have been hearing from some of the governors, the latest being from the Kano State governor, who thanked President Bola Tinubu, for his leadership, and particularly thanked him for not interfering in the whole judicial process. He said, despite pressure by people with vested interest, pressure on the president to interfere and maybe turn around the judgment to favor the president's political party, which is the APC. People are asking, really, does the president come under this kind of pressure?
Look, there's no way that you will be the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and you will not have interested parties knocking on the door of the president trying to garner one favor or the other, whether it's political, economic, or otherwise. It is just our very good fortune that we have elected a president who cannot be moved by dollars and pounds. This is a man who has been successful in private enterprise throughout his entire adult life. You're not going to incentivize him with money. He already has it before now. You're not going to incentivize him with political power. He has had it for a long time in this country. And so he is uniquely positioned to reject and rebuff any attempt to unduly influence the office of the president. And that's our good fortune now. I think Nigerians very well remember in the past when we've had presidents who would have hijacked opposition states to the effect of almost 30 out of 36 states simply by virtue of the power they held that they were entrusted with by Nigerians. And then you will now find that immediately they left office, those states would collapse out of the hands of that political party that hijacked those states, losing almost 10, 15 states at a go, simply because the people of those states rejected the excessive power being imposed on them by the presidency in the early 2000s. So what we've said is that President Bola Tinubu is not going to make that mistake. He very much aligns with President Muhammadu Buhari's progressive view that the people of states should determine who is in power in those states, that the power of the people is the true power in this country. And as a result of that, I think most Nigerians were I think, fairly satisfied with the fact that unlike much of the speculation going into the Supreme Court judgments and rulings, that there was going to be some sort of massive onslaught of APC-led states or opposition states being forced into APC hands and all of that. That has not happened. In fact, a lot of the speculation was around Kano. Is Kano going to be APC, NNPP, and all of that? And even if those states had gone to the governing All Progressives Congress, it would have been based on the merits of the case, on the merits of what the facts are before the court. So look, the reality is, irrespective of what happens, many people will always put hand and say, oh, the president should be commended or the president should be blamed. The president simply is sitting back and ensuring that the judiciary has its independence. This is a president who has, in his first budget as president in office, has more than doubled the allocation of resources to the National Judicial Council, showing that, look, I want this institution to function and function well. I want them to have enough resource so that they are not being tempted, through fiscal and monetary inducement to be able to take judgments on that account. I want them to take judgments on the merits of any case before them. So whether it is through the executive, budgeting and legislative appropriation, or whether it is through the ethical conduct of the office of the president, he is going to sit back and ensure that any decision they take is on the basis of what the dictates of the law are and what the merits of any case is with respect to those judgments. So the fact that status quo was essentially held up in every single governorship suit of the 8 that were held on Friday really should not be a surprise to Nigerians. But at the same time, we also acknowledge that it is an outcome of the fact that we no longer have a president in office that will use his office to politically influence the affairs of the judiciary. And I think state governors across our country can learn from the example of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on this issue.
All right, well, Ajuri Ngelale, Special Advisor to President Bola Tinubu on media and publicity. Nigerians are also watching and keeping hopes alive. Thank you so much. Well, that's all on the program for this week. You can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. My name is Femi Akonde.